Hello everyone. Welcome to this new series on learning C++ programming. I personally feel C++ is one of the best programming languages across all the other programming languages. C++ language was discovered by a person called Vianney Stroop. It was discovered in the year of 1979, and I've read across many of the programming language books about their syntaxes, about their usages, about their descriptions. But I personally felt a book written by Vianney Stroop himself talking about the concepts of C++ programming language. I was really amazed by the preface that was written in his book. It was very excellent. He mentioned all the key features or key points why someone should learn programming. A very famous quote of Steve Jobs, in which he said everyone should learn programming. It was clearly mentioned and explained in the book of Vianney Stroop why someone should learn programming. It was a very excellent preface which I have read across in times. So I suggest you viewers to go have a look at it in the preface of the book written by Vianney Stroop, which talks about programming with C++. And I personally prefer programming with C++ most of the times. And reason being, C++ supports all the features of C language, and also it has inbuilt functionalities of OOPS concepts as well. And in terms of runtime, it is one of the best programming language which has the best runtime among all the OOPS languages like C, Java, Python, and many other languages. And it also has lot many features of C, especially pointers and reference variables, which helps you program in a much faster and quicker way. And also it lets you access the core memory management system in a much easier and a faster manner. Now let's get into this series of videos. And in this video, we are going to look into some of the key elements or key feature differences between C and C++ languages. Let's get started. In general, there are a lot of similarities between C and C++. For example, the syntax of C language and C++ language is majorly similar, and both the languages has a similar coding structure. The compilation of both the languages is very similar, and the C++ language has most of the or almost all the keywords that C language has. And C++ has a slightly extended keywords apart from C language. To name a few, we have classes, new as an operator, and there are a few more, which is an additional feature of C language. The basic memory model of both the languages is very same. Same notations of stack, heap, and linked list is being used in both the languages. And to name few of the differences of C and C++ languages, in short, C++ is said to be a superset of C language, and C++ is a partially object-oriented programming language, whereas C is basically a procedure language. C++ also has features of exception handling, multi-threading, and many more, where in C we cannot do anything like encapsulation, abstraction, or inheritance or polymorphism, and which is why C is basically a procedure language and not an OOPS language. Where in C++, all the above mentioned tasks can be performed, and that is why C++ is basically an object-oriented programming language. Technically, C language contains 32 keywords, and C++ contains 63 keywords. As I mentioned earlier, C is basically a procedure language. C++ is called as a hybrid language, where it supports both procedure language as well as concepts of OOPS. Data and functions are separate in C language, reason because it is a procedure language, whereas in C++, the data and the functions are combined in one single form called as objects. C does not support data hiding, whereas in C++, data can be hidden in the form of encapsulation. In C language, only built-in data types are supported, whereas in C++, built-in data types is also supported, and we can also have user-defined data types. As we saw in our previous videos, in C language, it is impossible for us to perform something called as function overloading, whereas in C++, the function overloading is possible, which is a form of polymorphism, which is one of a key feature of OOPS languages. C is a function-driven language, and C++ is basically an object-driven language. And the first and foremost, the header file that is used in C language is called standard input output.h, which expands to where the acronym is stdio.h. And the header file that is used in C++ is called iostreams.h, which stands for input and output stream.h. C++ handles the whole functionality in terms of streams, which is way more similar to how the things are done in Java as well as basically a typical OOPS language. And there are a lot of other differences that can be found between C and C++, but let's not waste time discussing those. Let's directly get into the first part of environment setup for the C++ language. Now, to set up the environment for C++, it is way more similar to how we did it for our C language. We are going to use almost similar compiler called G++ compiler, which is another variant of GCC compiler, which will be by default installed along with our TDM GCC compiler. And this is your very first link to download your TDM GCC compiler. And here, by default, you can see the two different variants of 32-bit and 64-bit versions of the compiler which you need. Depending upon your system requirements, you can download the suitable executable file for your Windows system. Or if you're using Mac or Linux, just go on to this downloads page where you can see the different versions of TDM GCC compiler, which is suitable for specific operating systems and so on. And mine, I'm running a 64-bit Windows 11 operating system, for which I would prefer a Ming GW 64-based TDM GCC compiler. And we have downloaded this file and I have installed this file already while during our sessions on C language. And the compiler is present in this location of C:/TDM GCC 64. And the compiler is present inside this folder called bin, where we have both our GCC and G++ compilers in the same location, where GCC is a compiler for our C language and G++ is a compiler for our C++ language. And let us get started with our first primitive program with C++. Let's get started. So the first file, to save the file, the extension of the file is called .cpp, which stands for .c++. I'm saving my file as, I'll get to CPP folder. I'll save the file as program or else hello.cpp, which is an extension for C++ language. And the header file I'm supposed to use is called IO streams. And we are supposed to use this called as namespaces. Here I'm going to use the standard namespace. It's called STD, which stands for standard. So we'll discuss about what a namespace is and the usages of it in our later videos. Let's concentrate on the primitive structure of our C++ language. And here comes the first and foremost part of any language: reading the input and printing the output. Now, in our previous language of C or any other languages, you would have come across various types of statements to read the input or to print the output. Now, when it comes to C++, it is way more simplified. We have got only two types of statements, basically, which is called C in and C out, which is for reading the input and printing the output respectively. Now, let us talk about printing first. C out, and we have to use two angle brackets, after which we can have our custom message to be printed on the screen. Here I'm going to include just a string called hello world, and after which I'm returning 0 and ending my file. Now to compile it, I have to call G++ hello.cpp -o hello, which is a very similar way of compiling the file. It is just like how we compiled our C programming files. G++ is the compiler which we are using. Hello.cpp is the file which we have to compile, and -o followed by a term called hello, which is basically the executable file name which we need. And when I compile this, we got our G++ application running on the background, and we got no errors at this stage, and the compilation is pretty successful. To run this code, I'll just simply call hello, and that prints hello world on the screen, which is basically our C out expression. So this is all about C++ language of printing some strings to the screen. And if there are multiple values that you need to print, or there is a value you need to print from a variable, for example, I'm saying it as char name. I'm creating a name array which stores my name. Not to print it, I'll say my name is and a space, And next is the value which I have to fetch from a variable. So I'll put another set of angle brackets followed by the variable name I want to print. I'll save this file. I'll compile it one more time. And when I run this, now you can see it is getting printed the way we wanted it. It prints my name is Om Prakash, and that is printed with the help of my name is a string directly passes an argument to your cout statement. And after the next set of angle brackets, we have our variable that is being called, which is a character array, and in which I'm storing my name as a string. In order to read values from the user, we use this statement called as cin statements. Let me have a common integer variable called n, and cin left open brackets, and I'm saying n. Now this is a pretty much way to read the value of n from the user. Cout value of n is another set of angle brackets. I'm printing n. So I'm saving the whole file. I'll compile it one more time. And when I run this, you could see the cursor is still waiting on the screen. That is, it is waiting for my input. I'm entering value of 45, and it prints the value of n is 45. And that is exactly the way we wanted our output statement to be. And these two are the essential components of reading the input and printing the output: cin statements and cout statement. We are done with reading the input and printing the output. Let's quickly move on to the next topic in C++ languages. Let us discuss the remaining topics of C++ language in our upcoming videos. Until then, happy coding. See you in the next part of the video. Thank you.